Hello, hello, it's Jessica Hicks. I am going to be talking about, in this video, millennials. And I am going to be attempting to share a video this time. If you caught my last stream this week, that didn't go over so well. So we're gonna try this again with me not showing my screen. I'm not gonna have my phone. I normally show myself from my phone. We're not going to do that today. I want to see if this works. So I want to start off not with a video, but just kind of defining. Oh, I have playback. Wait a minute. Okay, I had StreamYard open somewhere else. But I do want to start with us just defining, okay, what is a millennial? So what do I mean when I'm talking about these different generations, who's suffering the most right now during this pandemic? What am I talking about? So let me pull that up. And I've got a couple articles I do want to share, but let's just identify who the millennials are and looking at all of the generations here. So we have the silent generation from 1925 to 1945. That's when they were born. We have the boomers, who I just talked about in a past video last weekend, but those are the folks that were born 1946 through 1964. So for example, my mom is actually a boomer. She had me later in life, and so she would fall in that category. Then we have, which I didn't even know about, apparently we had a progressive group. This is from the Washington Post. They broke out all of the generations for us. So we've got 1843 to 1859. We have Gen Xers, which I talked about. I feel like they're often forgotten, but that is the folks that were born from 1965 to 1980. My brother is in that category. We are 20 years apart. He's right at the top of that number. Or actually, he's closer to the top of that number, I think. And then we have this missionary group. Again, I hadn't heard of the missionary transit. Can I say this word? You guys know me with these words. Transcendental. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, because I've never heard that word in my life until I saw this chart. But we're looking at these groups from 1860, 1882, and then 1792, 1821. So I didn't even know that before the boomers, we were calling these different generations and things. So that was interesting to see too, that we even had a lost group. Like, that would be terrible to be called. You're the lost generation. But then we get to the millennials, right? So these are the folks that came right after Gen X, 1981 to 1996. You guys know I'm a 90s baby, and so I typically will talk about it in some of my videos, but I am a millennial. So in this video, I am going to really focus on why millennials are suffering from an economic standpoint. However, and I do have some articles pulled up, I will share them following the video. But there's also a lot to be thought of with millennials where the economics kind of crosses over into social life too. So, the social, the mental, things like social media being really heavy during our generation. So I'm going to hit on that, not so much, but I will talk about it. And let me see who I got in here. Hey, Keystone Tech. So thank you, Barry, for shouting me out in your video. I see some folks from your live. It says, so Keystone Tech is saying they don't have a chance, but it's all in a plan, sis. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very hopeful, I think there are a lot of things I will talk about during this video, from education, from the recession, from everything that's kind of, we're just getting slammed. Once we start getting better, we get slammed again. So I feel you. Hey, Barry. Hi, the woman who doesn't exist to you. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to check out your channel. I'm trying to see what that name is about. That definitely makes someone want to click and see what you're about. The woman who doesn't exist to you. Yes. Hey. A YouTuber did kill himself. Oh my gosh. I didn't know about that. Tell me more about that, Keystone, in the chat here. Hi, King of Kill. So what's good, y'all? I'm on the ground right now, so I might be in and out. That's okay. Thanks for joining. I send you the info on this, Barry. Oh, wow. Reception down here is bad. Okay, King of Kill. All right, so I am going to actually start with this video. I am hoping it plays back. I only have one StreamYard tab up, so hopefully it works this time. If not, I'm going to talk through some of the points that were mentioned in this video, but it was shared by NBC News. They did a post on millennials. They're basically saying we're the unluckiest generation in modern history, and they're talking about a few things. They have different folks speaking about their scenario, and they're talking about a couple of stats of, just the history of our generation and really how we came to be in this dilemma because of some different things that were really out of our control. So let's see if this works. Let me turn my volume up. And let me know in the chat if you can hear this. Classic millennial, though, with the AirPods in the ear. That is pretty much me all the time. Let me just check and see if there's sounds. Oh, Sharky says there's no sound. Let's see if there's anything I can do with that. Let me stop sharing that screen. And some screens let you share audio. Look for the share audio checkbox in the next window. Okay. Okay, I know why, because I was not doing it right, guys. This time it should work. Let us try this again. This is why it was not working before. Okay. Now you'll see what I'm talking about with the classic AirPods in the ear. Okay, I'm going to pause there and check for audio. Still no sound, Keystone? And hi, Savage Scientist. Were you guys not able to hear that one either? So, and if not, I'm going to talk through what they were just talking about. So basically, you have this group of millennials where they're saying they have not recovered from the last recession. They have not recovered from 2008. And even those that were able to get jobs, they took on jobs that were not really a part of their vision. That was really not their plan. They just took a job because, essentially, if you were one of the lucky few that got a job, You were golden. And I didn't. So thinking back to my college days, I didn't graduate in 2008. I graduated in like 2013, right on the cusp of 2014. So um, I had that time period, 2013, 2014, of where you take a job and you just try to make it work, right? You're new grad. Luckily, I did have internship experience, and the job I walked into was the company I interned at, right? And it's this situation where, okay, so you put your dreams on hold. Okay, this is my dream job, right? But I'm just gonna take it. Then we have the other part of this, taking away the dreams, right? Who cares about the dreams? You need a job, you need some money. Okay, well, the money that you're actually getting, that's lower paying. Or you're not getting the same type of jobs, even though you have this degree, that you have the baby boomers, right? We talked about the baby boomers before. They barely needed anything. You get a job. You have a high school diploma, you got a job. You have a college degree, you're making even more money. You have a better trajectory. You're in management. You've got kind of this easy flow of how you can take your career. Whereas, again, in the video, they're saying, well, there really were no jobs. Now, I will say for the technical folks, those folks, had an easier time getting jobs, right? But I will say that the education that we have received was not to focus on tech. The education that we received was, you get a degree, you chase your dreams, you will be successful. And that was just not true. So let's continue with the video here. Let me check for a comment or two on this. Savage said you can hear now. Okay, well, let's see if it continues to work for us. I'm on the millennial Gen X border, 1978. Okay, cool. You're on the border. Let's see, King of Kill, sorry, but I strongly disagree. There have been 2 major recessions in the past 20 years and 4 to 5 market crashes. I work in finance, so I'm at ground zero and following this stuff. I didn't see King of Kill's comment. This is the greatest time to be alive. Oh, you're saying this is the greatest time to be alive. Okay, I might have to scroll up to see some of the other comments in here. Okay, let's go back to the video and see what else they have to say about this. Just making a point, that guy was clearly not a millennial, and he's stating those facts right there. So I'm going to pause there because I do want to point out, I am not saying in this video and in the other videos that I've done about boomers or women being hit, I'm just trying to point out how these different generations are suffering and putting a highlight on it. Now, I do have a perspective that I do think millennials have been the hardest hit just within our lifetime, right? Because you saw with boomers, they had some time where life was just great, thriving, and they should have saved money. It was my big point there, so that they wouldn't be in a place where now things are, harder. They're complaining. No, you should be living a good life. You had the good life for so long. And then we highlighted women, right? And the different stats highlighting pay, disadvantages, and all of these things with just managing life at home, life at work, kind of, do you want to work or do you want to keep your family safe during this pandemic? So again, just to highlight that we've all suffered in different ways, but I want to highlight the millennials have been suffering in a different way, and not just because of this pandemic. It's kind of, okay, we've been suffering and now the pandemic has made it even worse, like a shock to the system even more. Like you got beat up, a couple times, and then here comes somebody with a just really big blow to the head that knocks you out, right? I've actually watched boxing, but for some reason that analogy sounded right. All right, let's go back to the video. Key thing there, okay? Key thing. So wages were increasing, right? Until the millennials got into the place where now we're entering the workforce, right? Wages were very low. So you have this, and I sometimes talk about this on my other videos and related to career advice. That starting pay that you get when you enter your career really is the basics, kind of the foundation for you, because you're only going to go up from that point. But if you're starting in a lower position or lower pay, it makes it harder for you to really get where you should have been, to, equivalent to Gen X and the baby boomers, right? So I don't want to pass over that. The other point in there that the lady mentioned was, what part does student debt play in all of this? Because sometimes we hear baby boomers say, well, I paid for my college by myself. I didn't need any help and this and that. I'm like, well, yeah, it took you a couple $100s to thousands of dollars, that you could actually pay for. Like it was essentially the price of a used or maybe even a new car if you were really, in school for a longer time period. But streamlined to today, the amount of money that students spend for college, hopefully you're not paying all of it with student debt, right? But you're getting some type of scholarships or grants. But essentially, you're paying about $1 million if you think about for 4 years. You go to a private school. Now you can go to a public school, but you're still paying, $30,000 to $40,000. Even if you start with community college, if you ultimately go to the university, you're still paying a higher amount of money than our baby boomers did when they were in school. So just want to highlight that, because if you're starting out, as we saw in the video I made about Black women, net worth $5, well, when they went to school, it got worse because then they were in a negative. And so you're trying to get yourself out of hole, but then you're not getting paid as much. So all of these different issues, and it just kind of, it's like a snowball effect. Like you get you get more and more issues as you continue. All right, let's kind of continue here, and I see some comments. Hello, Mr. Rounds. Hello, Edward Smart. All right, let's see what else this video has to say about the issues and the problems that we have as millennials and why we've been seen as the unluckiest generation. Let me play that back. Yes, and I like that they highlighted this point because this is another thing that millennials we get a bad rap for, right? That we move around too much. We won't stay at one company for a couple of years. But really, oh, there's still no sound? Oh, it was going so well. Okay. Let me stop sharing and try to share again. But basically in that video, they're saying that um, the first job you get, it sets you up for the next job and the next job and the next job, right? So when you start out without having a job that actually pays you to the market rate or the market equivalent of where you should be, um, that really sets you up in a bad way. It doesn't set you up for success long term, right? I have my window open, so there's a little background. So it doesn't set you up for success, right? So that's the point that this lady was making in the video. But to think about millennials and how we're getting this bad rap because we won't stay at one place. Well, if we stayed in one company, think about that for a second, because when you're with a company, unless you're unless they're really great about promoting you and actually paying the equivalent of that for the next role, which most companies are not good at. Most likely you're going to get this. You're going to get the inflationary pay increase of like 2 to 3%, right? And in a company that I first started out with, even when you got promoted, you did not get an increase. It really wasn't an increase. It was like you're doing this job, you get this title, which is great, and you got the 2 to 3% increase. Maybe you got a 4%, depending. So unless you were a manager or a certain part, and I'm talking about HR. HR, we don't get a big piece of the budget, right? Um, so the only way that you could really get an increase in pay was to leave. So I knew this. So a lot of folks in our department would just work 2 to 3 years. I even had a manager tell me, like, hey, work this job for a year and then leave. Because otherwise, you're not going to be paid to that market rate because you didn't start at a good market rate in the first place, right? So that's really my main point there, is that even today, like I tell folks, really negotiate for yourself. With women, we don't typically negotiate. And if we do negotiate, sometimes we're not negotiating as well. So we do have to focus on those different aspects. But let's go back to the video. Let's see if there's sound this time. I clicked the button to share sound, so we'll see. Let us see. Okay. I'm seeing there's still no audio from Edward, so I will just include the link in the description so you can take, a minute to check out the video. Oh, I see, Barry. So no sound just for the last 2 weeks. StreamYard won't have sound for me either when I try to share. Okay, got it. That's weird because someone said there was sound and then it stopped. That is so weird. So basically, key takeaways, and I am probably going to need to do a part 2 for this just because there's so many things that have affected millennials from when you take out economics, even our mental health, our social health. I mean, there are things that this video will share from some of the perspectives of these millennials where they're saying, hey, me and my friends, we have a joke whenever we're talking about having kids. And it's like, when you have kids, when you're dealing with so much, and now we have a pandemic. So in my situation, we were just having discussions in my group, and I have a very diverse group of friends: white, black, Asian. I can't talk to Hispanic too much with this group that I'm talking about, but I do have Hispanic friends as well. Looking across the board, some of them were just getting married and thinking, and a lot of my friends are in their 30s, like more around 35. I don't know. I think more mature, so I have friends that are a little older than me, but they have taken the route of buying the house, getting married, thinking about like next step might be kids, right? But that has even been delayed by them. And they're making, good jobs. A lot of the guys in the group, they work in tech. A lot of the girls in the group are working. Some are in HR, some are in like more nonprofit, some of them are in healthcare. So very diverse group. Wouldn't say that they're necessarily on the low end, right? When you think about millennials that are suffering, but they're suffering in a different way because, yeah, they went to college, they've dealt with the student debt. Some of them are still dealing with it. I had a friend tell me, we're just going to keep paying the minimum and do other things with our money because that's going to be there when we die. So this is a married couple in my group of friends. They're like, we're not even worrying about it. It'll be there, whatever. And that it's really sad to think about because that means you're going to continue paying on this thing and it's still going to be taking a portion of your money, whereas you could be doing other things with it, right? So will that really make you feel like, oh, let's have kids now? Probably not. When you're not economically sound or you have this, you have the mortgage and you have the debt, like the student loan debt now, do you really want to add in another liability? Because yes, I do see kids as a liability. They're a pleasure, they're beautiful, but yes, they are they're a liability for the majority of their child years, right? Unless you have a kid that surprisingly will become a business owner at like 10 years old or something. You see these stories. But that was pretty much the highlight. The main thing that I took away from a lot of the articles, and I'll share one other one, is that, we were hit from the start because of the education of being told, hey, you need to go to college. Our parents saying, you have to go to college. This is the way. Now, did every millennial say, I'm going to go to college? No. You had people like Kanye West that was like college dropout, whatever. You had Mark Zuckerberg was like, I can make my own business, whatever. I don't need this. So you do have people that were like, no, we're not doing it. But for the majority, we listen to our parents, right? We listen to our baby boomer or Gen X. I don't know. Am I saying that right? Gen X, yeah. We listen to our past generations tell us, hey, go to college. It doesn't matter that you take out the student debt because you're going to get a job and it will pay you and you're going to be able to pay this money back. Little did we know, we will be entering into a place where, from 2008, again, millennials are 1981 to 1996. So some of them were entering the job market right when that recession happened. But the recovery really didn't really look like a real recovery until around 2013, 2014, 2015. And so you had these folks just happy to get a job. Or you also had people going back to school just because they could not find a job and they thought, again, education, we're being told school is the way. School is the way. That's what we need to do. And that's how you get a higher income. That's how you get a job. But it really was not the route, right? That's not the route that you take. And hey, Swarthy Davis, nice to see you in here. So we're set up that way, right? We've been told from the education, you just need to go to college, get a good job. That model did not work for us. So now you enter a situation, student debt. You can't do anything with the student debt, right? Our past generations, if they had debt, most likely it was not as much about student debt, but other things, credit card, business debt, that they could file bankruptcy. You can't file bankruptcy on the student debt, right? So you just have it there. It's just there. So either you decide you're going to try to focus on it, get multiple jobs, get 3 jobs, whatever, and you pay it off, or you just deal with it and say it's going to be there forever. And if any of you guys listen to Dave Ramsey, I have just been floored by some of the some of the amounts of student debt in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And these are for degrees that are not medical. They're not a case where someone went to become a lawyer. It's just they wanted to get a 4-year degree. And so it blows my mind. So we have the student debt, right? But then we take with us, we have the student debt, and then we move into the lower pay. So we have the debt, we think we're going to pay it back. Now we have the lower pay. So now we're thinking, yeah, we got a job, we're going to be able to pay it back. We also are under the understanding that we're going to get promotions, right? Because that's the other thing, that the lie that we were told. You get promoted because that was the baby boomers' life. Getting promotions, living the life. They don't, you don't really need tech skills. You just need to get the degree, right? So then we learn we do need tech skills. We have to continuously be learning. We have to deal with multiple changes. Baby boomers, did they deal with change? Yes and no. It wasn't in a place where we have changes happening on the day to day, where you're constantly moving, you're constantly a new technology to learn. It's constantly changes with organizations, constantly acquisitions. It's just a lot. So dealing with a ton. Swarthy is saying, I am debt free, no student loans, thank goodness. Congrats, Swarthy. My question for you, Swarthy, are you a millennial? Because I love that. Edward is saying thumbs up. Yes, thumbs up to live for sure. Hello, Jessica Linton. What a great name, Jessica. My dad saved up for me to attend college, so it was a must. So that's a key point too, Swarthy. Why was it that so many millennials had the need to go into debt to go to college? Parents saying you need to go to school, however, parents are not paying for that school or paying a good percentage of that school. And I was told flat out, like, you have to get scholarship. You have to figure out how you're going to pay for school. You need it, but we can't pay for you to go to school. So why do you have this generation of people that were living the good life, yet we're not paying for school? Now, I do know folks that were in the same bucket, right? That their parent paid for them to go to school, or maybe they went to the school. I have a friend, her mom worked at the university, so she went to that university and her college was paid for, and her mom handled any other expenses. Unfortunately, her dad had passed away before she entered college, but they were able to manage it from that angle, right? Let me see. Swarthy, it looks like Swarthy is Gen X. Okay, so you're on the cusp of being a millennial. So you are in this boat where you are probably, let's see, you're in this group here, Gen X, so 1965 to 1980. So you must be a 1970s baby. Is that correct, Swarthy? But yeah, even for Gen Xers, college was still less expensive, right? Let's see. Savage says, I have $200,000 of student loan debt and no intentions of paying it back. So you're in the group with my friends where, I have this, my friends that they're a couple, they're in a relationship, and they're both saying like, look, and one of them works in finance. One of them works in finance, right? The other one is a doctor of some type of health. I don't know her exact degree, but she's been in school for a long time, and now she's an expert in a certain area of the health field. And so they're saying they're in the same boat with you, Savage. They're like, we got it. It's there. It'll be there when we die, right? So yeah, I can totally understand that. And that is a lot of money. Savage, what was your degree in? I'm really curious to understand that. But it's a lot of money. It just is, depending on where you go to school. Swarthy Daisy, can't even say your name. Blech. I've been talking too long, huh? My dad made too much money for me to qualify for FAFSA. Ah, okay. So you are in a boat where your dad was paid for it. That's awesome. Me Too, representing 1978. Mr. 100 Rounds is saying, my twin did the college thing. He makes about $84,000 a year. I hit the ground running after high school and make almost twice what he makes, right? So Mr. 100 Rounds is a great example of being told this lie, because it was a lie. What worked for the baby boomers did not work for the millennials. And so we were told, hey, you got it. You go to college, that's it. That's your life will be made, because that was their experience. That just is not the case for the millennials today. So the other thing that came up in the video, which I won't play it again since we can't share that sound, but they highlighted the housing market. Millennials, we're in a place where inflation has really pushed up housing prices, right? And at the same time, again, we're doing the snowball. So we have the student debt, we have the 2008 recession, right when a lot of us were entering the workplace, right? Or if you were in 1980s, maybe you had been in the workplace for a couple of years, you're trying to progress, right? So you have delayed progression, which again comes with more money and more experience and all the things that really help your trajectory. So we're there. So we have the student loan, we're in the 2008 recession. And as a symptom of that, we have the low pay. So we started out at lower pays, right? We don't have the progression. Now we're looking at a big identifier of wealth is, do you own a home? Well, baby boomers, right, own homes. Talking about, you need to own a home, this American dream, yada, yada. But how do you own a home? Like with looking in New York, how do you own a home in New York? Even in places like St. Louis, Missouri, or Dallas, Texas, Oklahoma, like the prices for housing have significantly increased. And another key to this too is you have the mindset of a millennial, right? The mindset of millennial is, I don't want to be kind of put in a place where I am bogged down and I have to stay in a single location, which is what, at least the first year of, owning a house, you should be living in the house, financial benefits to that. So you really don't want to be bogged down to one location, because you have to be open, ready to go for the next opportunity. Who knows where the opportunity is? I talked about this with the baby boomers. A big part of why they can't find an opportunity is because they're immobile. Can't just move to San Francisco. They have kids, they have a house. It takes time to, do all of that. So unless they're in a place where the company is willing to really invest in them, which is more so for your doctors or maybe even your lawyers or tech folks that are highly skilled tech folks, maybe in cybersecurity or something very niche, they may not do that. They have to be willing to make that move themselves. So you have this scenario. and this big wealth identifier of owning a house. But with a mindset of millennial, how do I own a house? And how do I get the money to actually even put a down payment on a house when I'm in these job fields that pay less? Plus, I have this college debt. So when you're looking at, your net worth, when you're putting in, for a loan or mortgage on a house, you have to include all of that. You're not going to get as much if you have $200,000 of student loan debt, right? So it makes it a lot tougher. And again, the snowball effect. And I see Swarthy, you are around the year of my brother, so you were born in the 70s. Cool. Still older. Wait, that went away. Let me see. I'm still older than Savage Scientists. Oh, so we are in the same generation, Savage Scientists. Okay, you're talking to Savage. And Savage says he has a degree in computer science. So, okay, because here's the thing. Here's the myth that we have been told more recently and while we were in college. You're getting a degree in the wrong thing, right? Okay, you went to college, you have this debt, but if you had only gotten an engineering or a computer science degree, you'd be fine. You would have paid off the money by now. You'd be good, easy sailing. No, it's not easy sailing. And I talk to folks in the IT space that are looking for a job or they're underpaid. And it's just like, how did you, and you go back to these things that have happened, that's how you get to folks being underpaid because you have, you look at economics, supply and demand, right? When you're in a market where there are more people looking for a job, skilled people looking for a job, and there's not as many jobs to give out, well, people are willing to be flexible. They're just going to take the job. Because if you don't take the job, someone else is going to take the job, right? So you're in this dynamic where, yeah, we're told you just need to get a computer science degree. No, that is not the answer. The student debt is the problem. The price of college is a big problem. Now, I will put a shining light for the next generation. Again, it's not affecting us, millennials, right? But the question of college, is it needed? You got the virtual space where people are going to school virtually now. I think a lot of the boot camps and shorter time period of learning a specific niche skill set is going to replace a lot of the college, because when I went into the workplace, even as a recruiter, like a lot of the jobs, these companies were saying you need a degree. So these baby boomers essentially were the ones making these rules, right? Saying, no, they have to have a degree. I have a degree. They have to have a degree. Again, not thinking that, well, I got a degree. Well, it was just a couple $1,000s. I could pay for it and yada, yada. So looking at their perspective. But for millennials, going through all these scenarios, it was tougher, right? And I see your comment, the woman who doesn't exist to you, NYC is expensive. Definitely expensive, but there are some folks making bank because of the fact that it's expensive. Now prices are going down though, because New York is it's kind of a gloomy place. I keep talking to my friend there, was just saying it's just depressing because the energy of New York City is kind of going down a bit, but it's still New York, right? Let's see here. The woman who doesn't exist to you, I have no kids. I plan to move soon. And I think the woman who doesn't exist, are you also a millennial, or are you the, what is it? Is it Y or Z? I don't know. I don't know this current generation. I need to learn it though. I really do. What states are cheaper to live in? So the woman who doesn't exist, I would say compared to New York, really anywhere other than like California or maybe Washington is going to be cheaper. I would say Texas, definitely. You can find, depending on what city you go to, because there are higher markets like Houston, but you can go to a market like Dallas or even cheaper, San Antonio, and find something pretty good as far as housing, cost of living and such. Missouri, thinking of the Midwest, you can find a lot of good opportunities. Even if you look at places like Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. When you look at New York and California, those are going to be your most expensive places. But then you can also look at the cities like Washington, Seattle, So, that cost of living is rising. Even in Texas, cities like Austin, cost of living rising. Houston, cost of living was higher than Dallas. So you just have to look. It's not necessarily always the state thing, but the city. Like when you look at the city versus suburb areas or surrounding cities that may be up and coming, growing, but they're not the main city where everything's happening, right? That is where you can kind of find these cheaper to live locations. So Arthur said about that hustle life. So that is another thing I'd love to talk about because, you have this hustle side gig culture, and that really stemmed from, I would say, a lot of millennials, right? Because we're trying to find creative ways to make additional income from our normal 9 to 5 or whatever our main gig is, right? So that is definitely helpful for some, but paying back, student debt. But with 200,000 of student debt, you need a really big shovel to really clean that up. So it's like you need the high salary to really push, but then something like maybe a side business for sure to push for additional clients on weekends and things like that. So it definitely takes a lot of creative thinking, which I would say for millennials, we are some of the most creative people. We've had to deal with a lot. And now we're in a place where we were just getting it. We were doing side hustles. We were moving. We were working the jobs. We were creating businesses. And then to the point of this video, we're hit with the pandemic, right? Just as people are going, maybe I can dream a little now. Going back to that original guy, he was saying he couldn't really dream. Let me see if I can find him, but he couldn't really dream. He could just get a job, get a job so you can live. The AirPods guy, let me see if I can find him. So this guy right there. So he was saying, he had all these dreams and ideas and visions and everything. And then he quickly learned those things are going to be squashed because you got to live unless you have parents that you can live with. And that's the other part of this too. The parents, right? So we were also in a dynamic, and I have friends that were like this too, that could not rely on their parents in a way that could have been helpful. For example, especially in the Black community, can I live with my parents? No, the parents, again, Black community, I'm speaking from here, kicking the kids out. Nope, you're 18, it's time for you to go, right? You're 21, it's time for you to go. So you have that dynamic as well. Could that have helped the millennials? Some of the millennials that I know that live with their parents, they are in a better position for themselves, right? But again, fast forward to the pandemic, we're carrying a lot of baggage with us. We're very educated in all of these things, but how do you fight these economic tragedies that we have continued to go through? It's kind of like we're in a place of, okay, what's next? So you get folks that are hoarding their money, trying to invest as much as they can, learn as much as they can about money. And then you have the other half where they're just like, I'm just trying to live. I'm just trying to get by, right? So it's tough. I think I'll have to do a part 2 video for this because I am getting closer to the hour mark now for the video. But key takeaways for the millennials that I see from the data, from videos like this, from even different articles like different ones here, where we look at the economics. But what I don't go to talk about is this article, which I want to do in a different video. But they're saying lonely, burnt out, and depressed, right? The mental health, the social health of the millennial, which again stems from a lot of things that were kind of out of our control. We were the generation, no thank you. We were the generation that were a part of everything social, being online all the time. So you're working all the time. It's not like the boomer generation where you go into the office and you say goodbye, unless you're on the phone, maybe taking a call, But this needs to be always on. This needs to be always on social. There's a lot of things that went into creating these social platforms like Facebook, where it's like a dopamine effect, right? So we're addicted to these things at this point. So dealing with just a lot out of our control, a couple things that I will talk about that are in our control, right? I mean, you can definitely delete every social app, but as a millennial, what's the social impact to you? And also, what is the economic impact to you? Because we have things like you can make income from these social platforms. And that's kind of a method that a lot of millennials use to better their situations, right? So, a lot to really uncover when it comes to millennials. Again, I am going to put this out there. I am biased. I'm a 90s baby. I have lived it, right? So I have a lot of perspective on just my situation. And I do feel like I was lucky in some ways for the fact that I did not. And I see you, Swarthy, saying, not as a single woman. Yeah, I see you, Swarthy. But yeah, I was lucky in some ways, only in the fact that I was able to find a job. I worked in recruitment during a time where companies were needing that, right? And I will say, could things be better off if I had entered the workplace at a different time? Definitely yes. Even looking at these past couple of years where I would have conversations with kids where they're like, oh, I don't know when I can start. I'm living with my parents and this and that. And I just think it's funny that we were seen as entitled when we had pretty much all the odds stacked up against us. I mean, look at some of the comments in here. Sharky says, my college literally cost double or triple per year, room plus board, than it did when I attended. IDK how any family does it today without scholarships or huge loans. Yeah, and I would add in there grants, right, from the government, if you can get those and if you can keep those. Because something else that a lot of folks don't think about when thinking about college is you have 4 years of that college, right? And you have to pay for all of those 4 years to get that degree. So if you have scenarios where you can get more grants when you're a freshman, but then as you become a sophomore, junior, senior, a lot of those grants kind of go away. Some of those scholarships go away. Some of those scholarships are your first year of college, right? Or some of these grants are like, it depends on the government. It just depends on the funding, right? So you're depending a lot on that. And so to your point, Sharky, yeah, college, double, triple, like, for people to say, oh, you have the same chance as I did, it's just not true. Not true. Let me see here. Yeah, Swarthy is agreeing with that. Atlanta does not pay well in most fields. And then you have that too. There's this thing happening, kind of a trend happening right now, where some companies like Reddit are saying, look, no matter where you are in the world, we are going to pay you the same price as we would pay someone in New York or San Francisco. We are going to pay you top market. Now, I don't work at Reddit, so I don't know what that really looks like for them, but I think the model of that will really help us as well, because the pay gaps between people, between women, men, diverse, not seen as diverse, it's mind-boggling. It's a system that just keeps you down, basically. And you saw that in the video, or if you heard any part of it, they were talking about the system. Yes, the system is not built for us. Keep that mindset, Daisy. Hope all your goals come true. 10x fold. Yeah, I agree with that, Mr. 100 Rounds. And Mr. 100 Rounds, did you always have a picture? I think this is my first time seeing your photo. Hey, I feel like I know people more when I actually see a photo versus like the I don't know, what is it even called? The default photo that goes there whenever you sign up on YouTube. Savage brings up a good point. The racial divide is serious in computer science. I'm making 45K at IBM, and the state offered me 42. Ooh, Savage, we might need to talk. What's your area in computer science, and how much experience do you have? We might need to talk, Savage. I'm not feeling that at all. At IBM, do better, IBM. But in this, again, Savage, your situation is why millennials are always looking for the next opportunity. Because if we're not getting it here, we're going to go somewhere else where they will pay us, right? And sometimes you like the company and everything, but they just won't pay you until you leave, and now you're getting paid this. They don't know what you're getting paid. So you can tell them, I'm at 75 or I'm at 100 now. If you want me, you have to pay me this, right? But you just don't have that when you're working at a company because they can look at what you're getting paid. I'll kind of talk about this scenario where I, as a recruiter, I had to talk HR into paying someone more. It was someone making a transition. And we have those scenarios too. So depending on what HR is doing, what your recruiter is doing, or whoever you have in your corner, like sometimes managers have to push back to compensation teams to say, hey, this person's great. We need to pay them more or they are going to leave and I need them. So making yourself valuable to the point where you're like, I need them and I'm willing to pay them more. Or if you have a counter, like an offer from somewhere, there's a lot of things that go into that, into those scenarios, I guess. But yeah, these companies are not paying at at market rates a lot of the time, especially when you're just getting out of school. They know you're looking for experience. So you need the experience, but once you have the experience, it's like, okay, you move on. Unless, again, the company is doing well and they are paying you to market rate. Swarthy Davis is saying, I don't know, Swarthy, I'm having a hard time saying your name today. Swarthy Davis, your name is like a tongue twister for me. But you're agreeing with Mr. 100 Rounds. Wow, I thought you made six figures in that field, Savage. Yeah, you know what? That's another lie. It's a myth that everyone in IT is making $100,000. It really does depend on your industry. Sometimes it depends on your location, your years of experience. So right out of school, I would say the median for IT, depending on your area, right, is probably between 50,000 and 65,000 when you're getting out of school, right? Now, different things may change that if you have internship experience, if you have work experience, but typically that's kind of the norm. Now, depending on where you live, if you're living in a lower cost of living place, you may be more in the 50, K mark, but I am really sad to see Savage saying 45K. I would love to hear what industry you're in. At Swarthy Davis, you in that at ATL is a beautiful city. Yeah, Atlanta is beautiful. Have to be willing to make a move to make more money, for sure. I talk about that a lot. And again, how do you buy a house when you always have to be mobile to make money? Whereas, again, to my point about baby boomers, you guys didn't have to move. At least when you were just starting out, maybe you did move with companies saying like, hey, we have this opportunity, we're going to move you here. I just had a talk with a guy last night from a very well-known financial organization, and he was saying the company moved them here, moved them there, moved them here, and it was the company saying, we're going to pay you and give you even more money so that you can take on this opportunity. So you have things like globalization that were happening. Baby boomers got paid for that. Gen Xers, you guys got paid for that. When a company's like, hey, we want to move you to Singapore because we need to put some operations there, you're getting paid, right? You're getting double pay. Like a lot of times they're taking care of housing, paying for your family. If you have a wife or a husband that has to find a job, they're paying for that. They're taking on a lot of those costs. So it's really hard for me to hear like the baby boomer situation and not think you had the good life. So I talked about that before. The millennials, we're in this situation where we're not having a good life and we're just trying to figure out how do we get there, right? How do we get there? Savage Scientist is saying my job would pay six figures in Seattle. Yeah, Seattle is a more expensive market. If you're in ATL, I don't know about that one. The woman who doesn't exist to you. Okay, millennial gang, hey. Austin is a tech hub. Yes, Austin is definitely a tech hub. I would say it's booming. Who is it? I think Tesla moved operations to Austin, Texas. Now, how much of that was because California taxes? I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely a tech hub for sure. I have a cousin that lives in Austin and he works at a tech firm that I actually highlighted in my last video, a company called Atlassian. You can check out the other companies too. I shared 3 companies that were hiring just a massive amount of, of tech jobs. Like I'm literally, I think at one part of my video, I just have to speed through because I show the jobs as I'm talking about them. And I just sped through because I was like, oh my gosh, all these engineering and IT jobs at this company. And so Atlassian will be a great place to check out. And I can't remember the other two, but if you check out my last, what do I say? What do I call it? Companies who are hiring updates, you will see just a ton of companies hiring, not just in tech, but a ton of tech jobs. So that would be my advice to you, Mr. 100 Rounds, but we should definitely talk at some point. Dorothy says not there, but I know people there and they have big houses for cheap. Yep. Mississippi is the cheapest place you can live. Yeah, probably Mississippi, Alabama. Well, yeah, Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma. Now, I don't know if I talked about this in the video yet, but Oklahoma, there are organizations that will pay you to move there. Will pay you to move to Tulsa. I'll talk about that in a video if you guys are interested. But that's something that I have on my to-do list as far as video content to actually share. There are places and organizations that will pay you to move to at a place, especially if you're working remotely. You work remote, and that's the dynamic that I'm in. I was literally talking to these folks, and it was a really easy conversation. I decided I did not want to be in Oklahoma, and I thought Texas would just be better. But in hindsight, I kind of wish I had done it because I haven't really done anything that amazing while I've been in Texas, to be honest, just because of the pandemic. And I would have been getting paid, I think it was like $1,200 a month just to, live there and do whatever I was doing before. So it's crazy. Let's see here. Oh, hey, King of Kills. The GIF economy. Do I pronounce that right? The GIF economy is amazing so far. Am I saying that right? Oh, the gig economy. I was wondering. I was like, what are you saying, GIF? Also, just fun fact, I do not know how to say that word, GIF or GIF. I don't know which is the right way to say it. But yeah, the gig economy booming because, people kind of have to, right? To make just kind of live, you have to, especially in places like California, New York. I just don't know how they do it. New York taught me how to hustle a bit more because before I moved to New York, I had the one job, right? I just started doing YouTube, posting video here and there. And in New York, like I was able to just make money just from talking to people. Like, yeah, I know about benefits. We're going to pay you because we need your insight. That really opened my mind, and just seeing, like going to a bar and seeing lawyers working at the bar doing their other side hustle, which was like tied to real estate and all of these different crazy models that you see just living in New York. And it was just like, I need to get on it and do some other things. So it's pretty eye-opening. I mean, raised in St. Louis, Missouri, it's just, and with my family life, kind of a little bit sheltered. So little might be an understatement. Swarthy said you lived in Austin, Texas for a while. It was okay, but I hear it's a lot better now post South by Southwest. I like Austin, but I have not lived there. I've only been there to visit. Someone mentioned that Mississippi isn't as developed. Is it true? You know what? I would question that because if you don't have bigger cities, infrastructure can be neglected. So in places, different parts of maybe Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, I would imagine, because you even see that in places like Texas, you see in Missouri. I've talked to folks where they live in a smaller town and they just don't have the infrastructure. So I've told them, hey, you need to get a remote job, and they don't even have correct internet. So you have companies like CenturyLink where they target these different communities, but they're, with Trump's whole, not to get political, but with Trump's whole focus on the forgotten people, there are definitely locations where there is like no infrastructure. It's just like, how do you live? Like, how do you get jobs in some of these places? So he wasn't 100% off with that. Obviously, he's not the model to say like, yeah, he was right, but he tapped into that. There are so many different locations in this country that do not have infrastructure. And a lot of times it's the smaller communities, right? The looked over communities, farming communities. So they have kids and their kids can't get jobs. It's easy. They have to drive 2 to 3 hours out to find something. So it's a lot. It can be a lot. Swarthy saying you can, sis, hustle your way to full income nowadays. Could not do that back in the 80s. That's a good point. Yes. So millennials we do have some advantages of things like social media. We've got flexibility. We've got a lot of things like that. So I will agree there. I'm going to close this out soon, but I kind of don't want to because of all the great comments and discussion. But I will be shutting it down soon. We're going to have a part 2 of this. I would not move to Mississippi, not as a single woman. Oh my goodness. Good point, Swarthy. Yeah, the woman who doesn't exist is saying you may be right. Right. I don't think I would move there as a single woman. Hey, I didn't want to be in New York as a single woman because I was like, I feel unsafe. Just like, this does not feel right. And then, knowing that my dad was like hating it and it was harder to see him because of the pandemic, it was just like, yeah, I don't feel safe anymore. Single woman trying to move need to be protected. Yes, the woman who doesn't exist. I agree with that. Savage is saying Mississippi is slow and underdeveloped, but if you look hard enough, there are jobs. Like Stennis Space Center on the coast. It's a NASA facility in Mississippi. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Savage, for sharing that insight. That's awesome. It's good to see that there are, and I guess you can always look to different organizations and government because some of these remote locations do have different government agencies or different centers for different types of exploration. That is a good point. I love that you brought that up, Savage. I love that we're helping each other in this chat. That's amazing. Hey, Tasha, welcome in. I haven't seen you in a while. My beautiful, beautiful friend. Mr. 100 Rounds is saying, sad to say we living in times where too many men trying to be ladies and too many ladies forced to be men. Too much pressure on these queens out here. Did I do a good job of that, Mr. 100 Rounds? So, oh my goodness. You know what? I could talk about that in another video. I need to know what should I title that video? I should have just a video on that point right there. What part are we really playing in our society if women are trying to be men and men are trying to be women? Or on the flip side of that, Mr. 100 Rounds, men are saying, you have a group of men that says, we don't need women. And then you have a group of women that are saying, we don't need men. But I'm just like, so we're just all going to die? What are you guys saying? Because nature tells us at a very basic level, we kind of need each other. I've said this in another video, but we complement each other. We need to stop fighting each other. We just need to know that we are equals in the sense that we complement each other. That does not mean that we are the same, or maybe the word isn't equal. Maybe there's another word that should be said there, but we're not the same. We need to learn how to complement each other. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Let's see here. Hey, JMJ, what is up? How are you? Oh, nope, I got you, Mr. 100 Rounds. Got too much pressure. Yeah, you guys should see me when I'm typing really fast. And I'm just like, what is this? I'm like, no, autocorrect. No, it's not what I mean. The biggest one for my phone, my autocorrect is always changing when I'm trying to say I live somewhere. It's always trying to change it to love. So anytime I say live, it says love. And it's like, no, I don't love you. I mean, I do love you, but that's not what I'm trying to say. Sharky is saying, even as a single guy, I want to move somewhere less expensive than NYC area, but have some doubt, fear about starting over somewhere I don't have any family or friends. It's a tough call. Yeah, that is a tough call. I would just make a pros and cons list, Sharky. Look at the pros, look at the cons, and make that decision, because here's the thing. There's so much time that you can take thinking about it when you could just do it. Try another area, and if you don't like it, you can always move back. If you say like, oh, this isn't for me, you can always move back. unless you're buying, a townhome. But even then, like, my eyes have been open to the fact of home ownership. It's not that you necessarily have to live there forever, but you want to keep in mind you want to live there that first year. And then if you want to rent it out after that first year, great. But there are options for you, Sharky. But I would say explore other cities, pick something, and if it makes sense to you, either economically or whatever, try it, because you can always travel. And for me, my question was like, how much do I actually see my family? Like, do I see my family every single week? No. So would it make sense to just, move and then travel and see them when let's plan and make the most of it. So I'm going to close this out. I see a lot of good comments in here, though. I'll give it 5 minutes and then I'm going to say goodbye. But great discussion. I appreciate all you being here. Savage was saying National Guard service is another way to finance colleges. It's like a free ride scholarship. Yes, that is a good point, Savage. We might have to have a discussion about that too. The woman who doesn't exist is saying I'm outgrowing NYC, period. Period. I get it. I totally get it. The woman who doesn't exist, I hope you come to more of my live streams because I want to hear more about what's going on in New York. Since I've been away, I'm always so curious. It's like home away from home for me a little bit. Oh, you always had a pick. I don't know. Maybe I just never paid attention to it. I was like, hey, you look very nice picture, Mr. 100 Rounds. Let me see. The woman who, hello, neighbor. Oh, yeah, a lot of New York folks in here. Sometimes when these Fortune 500 companies do it on purpose when they refuse to pay them what they deserve. Oh, yeah, for sure. The woman who doesn't exist. For sure. Because think about it. Whatever they're paying you, imagine they're getting like 3 times, 5 times more of value from you. Because that's all money is. It's just an exchange of value. So yes, for sure, the less they pay someone to start, the more money they get to use for others or other things. Hey, Miss Full Roller, how are you? Those service industries and tech fields like to hire young blood. Every industry likes to hire young blood. Every industry. And I talked about this before with baby boomers, why companies like to hire younger folks. But yeah, we'll have to talk about that more at some point too. But Swarthy, yes, every single industry likes to hire young blood. And there's some like reasons behind that are not bad. Like some of the reasons are just the fact that you are giving opportunities to, this percentage or this population of the workplace, right? Because younger folks, they need the experience. But yes, there's definitely some cost advantages of that as well. Miss Full Roller agrees. Very hard on y'all millennials. Thank you. That's all I am trying to say. If anyone's watching a playback, that is my point. And you're trying to make content, you're trying to get content marketing. Okay, that's awesome. The woman who doesn't exist. There's so much hypocrisy regarding the job life from the older generations. Yes, Miss Flow Roller. Yes, exactly. So I'm going to do a part 2 to this video. Hope to see you all there. I think these are all some great discussion points. Miss Full Roller is saying that millennials are spending or experiences the full effect of the economy. That was at the beginning stages. That first wave Gen Xers were coming into age into, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I have a video on my channel called Where Should Minorities Move to Land a Job in Cybersecurity, Programming, Coding, or Computer Science? Ooh, okay. I think I can share you on my channel then. That would be relevant for me and my audience. Where should millennials, or where should, see, I'm saying it in your thing, but where should minorities move to land a job? I mean, honestly, cybersecurity, they can go anywhere, but I want to see what your video is talking about. I'll probably share that one out, Savage. And if you haven't checked out the video and you're curious, check out that video. All right. Swarthy saying red pill. Oh my goodness. I love the men's. We coexist in a lovely way. We have to unite. Don't buy into the divisive stuff, right? Everything's connected and there's no hierarchy. That is humans' biggest issue, and thinking one is more important than other humans, Yes, exactly. Y'all beautiful people, enjoy the rest. Thank you. Enjoy your workout. Yeah, I need to get off of here. I actually need to be doing the same thing. Mr. 100 rounds, but lovely discussion. I will do a part 2 to this video. I might plan that for the next weekend or the following weekend, but we will have this discussion again. I am also, just a quick note about the channel, I will be popping up during the week to just talk about some different topics. A lot of times I see things that I don't really talk about a lot. And it's because I'm like, do I really want to spend time talking about this during the week? I go live on weekends, but I want to be more flexible. I just want to pop up whenever and share what's on my mind within any time. So I appreciate you all being here. Again, look out for the part 2. Check out some of the videos. I do share companies that are hiring every single week. So the last update was a lot of tech jobs, but also marketing, HR, all kinds of other jobs as well. And then I did put up a little vlog video because I hadn't done a vlog video in a very long time, but it was just little snippets of my time in New York City. My roommate had a cat, so me and the cat, we got along very well, even though they were pretty shy. So check out that video if you're a cat person or if you like pets. Basically a quick 5-minute snapshot of my work from home life with my cat coworkers. So I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a lovely day. Appreciate you lovely people being here, and I will see you in the next video. Lovely discussion, lovely points from everybody. Bye. Have a great Saturday.